Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to this edition of the news in English here on Rwanda Television with me, Sarishan Hori. As always, we'll begin with the headlines. The RDF and the National Police are preparing to launch their community outreach program next week. Rwandan youths have been urged to learn the history of their country through the program known as Rubyiruko Menya Amateka Yawe. And on the international scene, U.S. military officials are saying that a shortage of amphibious warships has reached a breaking point. Now the details. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. The President of the Rwandan Senate, Dr. Francois-Janvier Kalinda, has noted that the country's history serves as a constant reminder that good governance begins with political will, which in turn relies on analyzing and fully understanding the challenges facing the nation without avoidance and committing to strong measures to address them for sustainable development. He made the remarks during a consultative meeting on the state of corruption here in Rwanda and strategies for its prevention. The meeting brought together members of parliament, government officials, representatives of the private sector, and members of the civil society involved in the fight against corruption. Others say that they take pride in the contributions of the army and the police to develop and the well-being of citizens beyond their primary duties of ensuring security and defending the country. On Monday next week, these institutions will launch initiatives aimed at promoting development and improving citizens' welfare. We have the details with Prince Manzi.
Across the country, various initiatives have been carried out by the military and police in collaboration with citizens, including building terraces, bridges, livestock shelters, and more. I feel proud and joy as a Rwanda citizen because we consider them as partners. We pray for God's blessings on them. The Defense Force and Police, when they exceed their daily duties and collaborate with citizens, we feel closer to them. The spokesperson of the Rwanda National Police, ACP Boniface Rutikanga, reiterates that they take pride in the fact that their work is done through the people, which further builds trust in security institutions. We appreciate a lot. The first, which is now obvious more, is that citizens are now having trust in their security organs. The second, this is our mandate to make sure of the safety and wellness of the citizens. The deputy military spokesperson of the Rwanda Defense Force, Lieutenant Colonel Simon Kabera, expressed satisfaction that Rwanda's security organs have the unique characteristic of including contributions to development and citizens' well-being as part of their responsibilities. But we have a uniqueness differing us with other nations, is that we have a responsibility to take part in a country's development. This derives from the head of state vision he had during the liberation struggle. You cannot achieve security if one is not well. It is easy to protect someone who has all basic needs because he or she will also take part in preserving the achieved. Annually, the Rwanda Defense Force and Rwanda National Police organize the Citizen Outreach Program. This year's will commence on 17th March. The countrywide 3-month community development activities will address human security issues in different sectors, namely health, environment, public infrastructure, utilities, and construction of houses for the vulnerable.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Moving on, the Minister of Youth and Arts, Dr. Jean-Nepo Abdallah Utumatkwishima, is urging young people to make an effort to learn Rwanda's history so that they can draw valuable lessons to help them build the Rwanda we aspire to. He He made the remarks in Karongi district during discussions dedicated to the youth under the program called Rubyiruko Menya Amateka Yawe. This provincial-level discussion held in the West was attended by more than 800 young people from the districts of Nyamasheke, Rusizi, Karongi, Rutsiro, and Rubavu. A special liquidity fund for microfinance institutions is set to be established in Rwanda to address the issue of high interest rates on loans. The fund is expected to be operational before the end of this year. This initiative is a joint effort between the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda, AMIR, and the Access to Finance Rwanda, AFR. The high cost of loans is often cited as a major challenge, particularly for women and youth seeking financing for small businesses. Currently, interest rates on microfinance loans range between 18 and 24%. Now, members of a cooperative in Rusizi district of the Western Province say that after 2 years of professional fish farming, they have started making a significant income, unlike before when they struggled to meet even their own needs. Over this period, they have generated more than 8 million Rwandan francs in revenue. Their success began when the Nyungwe Management Company started supporting them back in late 2023. Both the cooperative members and employees now see themselves on a clear path to development. However, they still face challenges, including the limited availability of fish feed, a shortage of fingerlings, those are young fish, and a lack of adequate training in modern fishing techniques. The Nyungwe National Park supports this cooperative as part of its effort to share the benefits of conservation with local communities and encourage them to protect the park. The Twiteze Imbere Tworora Amafi cha Mundongo cooperative has 32 members and can harvest over 60 kilograms of fish per day. Beyond this cooperative, the Nyungwe National Park also funds other community-based projects to improve the livelihoods of people living around the park. Now back to Kigali, and Africa's Business Heroes 6th Summit is underway, bringing together entrepreneurs from across the continent. It will feature a grand finale where 10 outstanding participants will compete in the ABH Grand Finale Pitch Competition. William Evans Mutabazi has the details.
It is under the theme AI African Innovation, Insight and Impact, which seeks to inspire African innovation for African problems. This is what African Business Heroes is about.
It's been fascinating to watch the young Africans, their vision, their dream, their entrepreneurial, innovative and creative solutions being presented, trying to find the right support for expression. And I think that what the ABH project has done is to not just teach, empower, equip through all the workshops and the boot camps to prepare the entrepreneurs, but is also to fund through the prize money. But more than that is the opportunity that comes to the entrepreneurs after they've been part of the process. A lot of entrepreneurs that have been part of the process have been able to raise critical capital funding to expand their projects, not just within their country, but across the continent, and some of them have been able to reach other parts of the world with this. So it's key to what we need to do, especially when you consider the fact that the largest youthful population in the world resides on this continent. And we need to find constructive, engaging, productive way to engage our youthful minds and to allow them to use their energy, their intellect, their innovativeness, their creativeness to produce solutions to our problems, but solutions that are sellable and scalable beyond our continent in order to attract value to the continent. So it's a critical part of the ecosystem of helping to educate and empower the abundance of entrepreneurial energy that resides on the continent. And entrepreneurship is critical to how we take our continent out of poverty. When you look at the antecedents or the results over the last 5 years, you can see the number of, each year, the applications have been over 20,000. That's 20,000 bright African minds thinking about solutions to problems they see on the continent. And through their entrepreneurship, they are empowered and equipped to scale up those solutions and make them productive. And as they do that, they create jobs, which is highly needed because we have so many young minds that we need to engage. But they also create economic value, they create growth. But more than that, they help to show the world the value that resides within the continent. So there is a lot that has been accomplished through it. There is a lot more that will be accomplished through it.
Albert Mnyabugingo, co-founder and CEO of Vuba Vuba, who previously participated in this program, emerging among the top 10, encourages young Rwandan entrepreneurs to take advantages of such forums.
ABH is an amazing platform, not to say just because you're part of it, but we've seen people growing from being in one market to 10 markets after ABH. The application itself, let me start from the application itself. When you're going through it, it actually gives you an idea of a lot of things that you've never thought about from your business, because it has a part called deep dive. So you really get to deep dive in your business and get to understand some of the things you need to introduce, some of the things you've never thought about. And when you're going through the process and, if all is well, you get selected part of the top 50. The good thing with them is there's nothing personal. So just want to help you grow the business, just want you to be better. And because these are people who've had experience in different markets, right? And, once you get selected in top 20, that's another milestone, right? Now you get people who challenge you even more than the first ones and get new ideas of your business. Now, getting part of the top 10, you're now eligible for the first cash prize, which goes up to $100,000, and now you're part of the community and you start interacting with other people. You get exposed to actually expanding to the continent, because we have the proper solutions for our own problem in Africa, right? Most of the applications are not really life-changing. They won't ask you to pay until you're probably at a certain level. And sometimes you need to get involved as well. If it's about traveling to another country, if you know what you want, you squeeze within your business and see what works. And such forum, right? When you hear that there's ABH happening in Kigali, and you're in Kigali as an entrepreneur, you don't register. I mean, you don't know who you meet, right? Sometimes the elevator pitch are the ones that are going to change your lives. Sometimes you have a conversation with someone for about 30 seconds, and that person is who you've been waiting for the last 5-10 years. So really be out there, speak to whoever you need to speak to. Take networking as an important task, as important as running your business back home. And for my fellow Rwandan entrepreneurs, I think we need to make a step ahead of how we think, right? Rwanda is a very market that has proven to be a concept to solutions that are expandable to African. So we need to, I think an entrepreneur, if you send one application a month, you need to look at yourself as really not up to the level, right? You need to be sending as many applications as possible, especially ABH. I think it almost depends every year, and from that perspective, myself, I got rejected about 2 times before, and then I got accepted from the third one, and I made it to the top 10, right? So we need to be out of our comfort zone if we need to really compete, because the government has really given us a platform, right? Infrastructure-wise, I think internet penetration, smartphone usage, we're really among the best in Africa. So it's really now up to us to embrace that and make good use out of it.
Some of the attendees of this summit, especially university students, but also innovators, shared their thoughts and their highlights of this summit.
So the biggest highlight of this event is that they were telling us and teaching us how to leverage AI for building a better Africa.
I got a new definition to AI, which is no longer artificial intelligence, but rather African innovation, insight and impact. So as an ecosystem builder, I think I learned how to be financially stable and also use my money well, and also get an insight into the ecosystem builder field.
Outstanding finalists will compete in the African Business Heroes Grand Finale Pitch competition, showcasing their businesses for a chance to win a share of $1.5 million in grant funding. These will also gain lifetime access to an exclusive community of like-minded entrepreneurs, inventors, business professionals, and mentors. William Evans, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, William. Now, the UN resident coordinator here in Rwanda, Ozenia Ogileo, has emphasized that private sector companies cannot achieve their goals without first embracing gender equality, inclusivity, and the respect of workers' rights in their operations. He made the remarks on Thursday during discussions with business leaders here in Rwanda, focusing on strategies to help the country achieve its sustainable development goals by 2030 and 2050, respectively. The coordinator highlighted that this progress requires collective effort, where employers recognize workers' rights and employees understand their responsibilities. He also pointed out that these principles align with the UN's core values.
The UN Global Compact is growing. We now have about 25 members, and we're targeting about 50 members before the end of the year so we can set up the Rwanda chapter. The good news is the private sector in Rwanda is aware, is interested, is doing a lot of work to strengthen environmental, social, and governance accountability mechanisms. So the logic is clear, as you heard during the conference. If you don't employ women folk or don't empower them, you're actually undermining your own possibilities for your own growth. If you don't improve the lives of the communities in which you serve, then your profit can also not increase. Because if you improve their life, they can borrow more money, they come back to the bank, more revenues. So it's a symbiotic relationship. The companies prosper when they invest in the communities. So the logic of the UN Global Compact is to create this awareness among all the companies in Rwanda. And please note that in most parts of the world, it's actually small enterprises, SMEs, that constitute the core of the economy. SMEs are the core of the economy in Rwanda. SMEs are the core of the economy in places like China and South Korea and the others. So clearly, by working with our SMEs, we can create more investment opportunities. The banks can create more opportunities for transformation in the communities. So when you build the economy of a community, you give people credit. They engage in agriculture, they engage in fisheries, they engage in manufacturing. What it means that they pay more revenues to the state, and then the state is able to provide more services to the people. But it means they borrow more money from the banks, so banks also make more profit. So all around is a win-win for everyone, and that's what we are promoting as a UN Global Compact.
koko hari umuntu ugihagarara ku nyama muri iki gihe koko uretse nitaba umukiriya kiriya biteze
ariko tayi aho kuntoreza imyenda wibereye kuri telefone kweli
ariko ni kuwa mbere nawe wagwa wamo uracyari wose icyo nakubwiraga wa muntu niko ye umuntu w'umugabo ku bukwe bwe akambara kositimu itukura iciye n'amaboko noneho none se uyisuza
si wombwiye ngo ngwe muse
ntabwo ari ibi navugaga
kuwa mbere kanda akanyenyeri 345 akanyenyeri 2 urwego maze nawe ugwemo. Wikwisondeka.
Welcome back. Let us now take a look at international news. U.S. military officials are saying that a shortage of amphibious warships has reached a breaking point. While the ships make up just 10% of the country's fleet, they are the go-to alternative to aircraft carriers when commanders need something more precise and expedient. VOA has the details.
When commanders across the globe need more American military power, they often turn to Marine Expeditionary Units, or MEUs. Each unit is a team of about 2,000 Marines and sailors who deploy on amphibious warfare ships. It takes 3 amphibs, 2 small ones and one that looks like a mini aircraft carrier, to make an amphibious ready group, or ARG, which transports the Rapid Response Forces along with thousands more sailors. Once deployed, these Marines and sailors are the military's Swiss Army knife, providing everything from strike power to non-combatant evacuation operations to disaster relief.
Amphibs are vital to us. They're an existential part of who we are as Marines.
General Eric Smith, the top U.S. Marine, tells VOA the military needs 3 of these 3-ship units deployed abroad at all times. 1 unit from the East Coast, 1 from the West Coast, and 1 from Japan, a plan known as 3.0. Can you achieve that with the number of amphibs that you have today?
With the number of amphibs that we have ready today, no. I have the Marines and I have the squadrons and I have the battalions and the batteries to do it. I just don't have the amphibs.
The ship shortage saga, which has steadily worsened since the early 2000s, has divided the Marine Corps and the Navy. While America was busy fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, its amphib fleet, plagued with maintenance deferments and delays, fell into disrepair, says Shelby Oakley with the Government Accountability Office.
You're running these ships to ground, not taking care of them. So this is kind of equivalent to just driving your car and never changing the oil and expecting it to last 15 years. It's just not going to be the case.
In a perfect ship cycle, the Commandant says he needs at least 27 amphibs to continuously deploy 3 of these 3-ship ARG-MUs. 9 amphibs deployed, while 9 are used for training and 9 are in maintenance. But 100% readiness is almost impossible, so the military says it should expect about 80% readiness, meaning about 7 of those ships would be ready to deploy and 7 would be ready for training. 4 extra ships are required to meet the Marines' needs, for a total of 31. The Navy currently has 32 amphibs, so why don't the Marines have enough of them?
Half of its amphibious ships are in poor material condition. Key systems aren't functioning the way they're supposed to.
Your readiness rate is down in the 50 percentile range and it needs to be 80%, then I would say that's a crisis.
One of the amphibs, the USS Tortuga, hasn't sailed in over a decade. And there are 15 more that the Government Accountability Office says are not on track to make it to the end of their 40-year service lives. Why are so many of these in bad shape?
We're trying to keep an aging force ready and focused on what it needs to do. It's not just amphibious ships, it's really the whole Navy. When I started in the Navy, we had almost 600 ships. Now we've got half that, but we're still doing the same mission.
Acting Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Jim Kilby tells VOA the Navy is trying to tackle the issues dragging down the amphib fleet the same way it fixed the issues grounding its fighter jets a few years ago.
In this chart, if it's green, I am. If it's red, I'm not. The Surface Committee has doubled the number of ships that completed maintenance on time. It's not where I want to be. I want to get better. It is not acceptable to have 50%. We want to get to 80%, and we owe it to the Marine Corps to do that.
Meantime, the Marine Corps says the consequences are stacking up.
The gaps in coverage really have already begun. There was a non-combatant evacuation operation required to get American citizens out of the Sudan when violence was erupting. And because there was no ARG-MU presence, the AFRICOM commander was forced to use commercial airlines.
And even when units have deployed, they did not deploy as a full force. The USS America Amphibious Ready Group deployed with 2 ships instead of 3 last year because there wasn't another amphib available. And the USS Boxer Amphibious Ready Group had so many maintenance delays that the Navy had to stagger each ship's deployment last year, all months later than planned. What was supposed to be a 9-month deployment resulted in just 2 months with all 3 ships together.
When the Boxer wasn't there, they couldn't do F-35 operations. They couldn't support an international partner as they had planned.
Who is responsible for all of these things that happened last year?
The Navy is responsible, and we did not meet that in the case of the Boxer.
So will this happen again?
I hope it doesn't, Carla, but I can't guarantee that.
The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit completed its last patrol aboard the USS America Amphibious Ready Group this month. The next deployment of one of these 3-ship ARG-MUs from the East Coast or Japan is still months away, and officials say one likely won't deploy from the West Coast until 2026. A Navy official says the service only budgets deploying one 3-ship amphibious ready group for only 10 months in the year, because according to Kilby, the Marine Corps' 3.0 requirement is not a Navy requirement.
I do not have a plan to get to 3.0. I have a plan to maintain 31 ships per law in our shipbuilding plan.
That plan banks on the Navy keeping 6 of the amphibs in the fleet for several years beyond their expected 40-year service life, including some of those currently in poor condition.
But there's huge questions about whether or not they will even make it to their expected service life.
So how is that plan feasible?
So we have to plan the availabilities to go do the work necessary to get them to a life cycle health assessment above poor.
This is going to take at least a decade to fix. Yep. What happens if we find ourselves in a conflict with China and we start losing more ships?
We're going to have a problem. The whole point for having the ARG-MU out is to prevent conflict.
Kilby says the Navy wants the problem solved by 2027, the year China's leader Xi Jinping has ordered the military to be prepared to take Taiwan.
We have the Navy we have. That's the Navy we're going to have largely in 2027, and we just need to operate it more efficiently and effectively.
Experts say if Beijing attempts to take Taiwan, it could catapult the U.S. and China into war, while the amphib fleet is struggling to stay afloat. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
And that report has brought us to the end of this edition of the news. However, before we go, let us take a look at the headlines again. The RDF and the National Police are preparing to launch their community outreach program next week. Rwandan youths have been urged to learn the history of their country through the program known as Rubyiruko Menya Amateka Yawe. And as we just saw, the U.S. military officials are saying that a shortage of amphibious warfare ships has reached a breaking point. I hope you had a great week, and be sure to join our colleague William Evans Mutawazi for the editions over the weekend. Goodbye.
turabashuje kandi tubaye n'ikaze ku makuru y'iteganyagihe mutegurirwa n'ikigo cy'u Rwanda gishinzwe ibintu by'ikirere Meteo Rwanda tugiye kubagezaho ndi mukaza rukundo Clarisse. Uyu munsi tariki 14 Werurwe mu kirere cy'u Rwanda mu bice byinshi byaho nta mvura yaguye. Byumvikane yuko mu turere twose tw'igihugu nta mvura yaguye nk'uko ino shusho irimo ibyerekana. Akaba ari nako biteganyijwe mu masaha nijoro kuko n'ubundi nta mvura iteganyijwe mu turere twose tw'igihugu cyacu. Ku munsi w'ejo akaba hateganyijwe umuyaga uringaniye ushyira kuba mwinshi. Uyu muyaga uteganyijwe ukazaba ufite umuvuduko uri hagati ya metero 4 ndetse na metero 8 ku isegonda, ndetse ukazaba uhuha ahenshi uturuka mu bice byo mu burasirazuba werekeza mu tundi turere tw'igihugu cyacu. Mu masaha ya mu gitondo mu turere twose tw'igihugu cyacu hateganyijwe imvura. Byumvikane ko mu bice byose by'igihugu hateganyijwe imvura nk'uko ino shusho irimo ibyerekana. Naho ibipimo by'ubushyuhe biteganyijwe mu masaha y'igitondo byo biri hagati ya -11 ndetse na -18. Hateganyijwe gukonja kurusha ahandi mu gihugu ni mu karere ka Nyabihu hateganyijwe igipimo cy'ubushyuhe cya -11. Naho mu masaha y'igicamunsi hateganyijwe imvura, ndetse imvura iteganyijwe kuzumvikanamo inkuba mu bice byose bigize igihugu cyacu. Ibipimo by'ubushyuhe biteganyijwe byo biri hagati ya -21 ndetse na -28. Hateganyijwe rero kugira igipimo cy'ubushyuhe cyo hejuru ugereranyije n'ahandi mu gihugu ni mu karere ka Rusizi ndetse no mu karere ka Nyagatare hateganyijwe igipimo cy'ubushyuhe cya -28. Reka dukomeze tubagezaho rero mu minsi 5 ku kirere kizaba cyitwaye n'ubundi duhereye ku munsi w'ejo. Ku munsi w'ejo twavuze ko hateganyijwe ibihe by'imvura kuva mu masaha mu gitondo kugera mu masaha ku gicamunsi, ariko ku itariki ya 16 naho hateganyijwe imvura mu bice byinshi by'igihugu. Ku itariki ya 17 hateganyijwe imvura mu ntara y'uburengerazuba n'iy'amajyaruguru ndetse no mu karere ka Gisagara aho ni mu bice by'amajyepfo. Imvura iteganyijwe kandi mu bice by'amajyepfo y'uburasirazuba, ahandi hasigaye nta mvura ihateganyijwe ku itariki ya 17. Tariki 18 ndetse na tariki 19 akaba hateganyijwe hateganyijwe imvura n'ubundi mu bice byinshi by'igihugu. Reka dusoze tubabwira yuko ku munsi w'ejo izuba riteganyijwe kurasa mu masaha saa 12:03 za mu gitondo rirenge saa 12:16 za nimugoroba. Mwakoze kudukurikira, tubifurije kugira weekend nziza.